Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. This week I'll be reviewing The Nest by Cynthia Sweeney. I'll talk very briefly about the author, go into a spoiler-free overview of the plot, talk about what I liked about the book, what I didn't like about the book, who I'd recommend the book to, and finish off with what I'll be reading for next time. Cynthia Sweeney, is an author best known for this novel and her second novel, which I believe is called Good Company. This came out, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago and has been translated into over 25 languages. Amazon has optioned it, and it may be coming a series or a movie soon. So she's done very well with this book. It's on the New York Times bestseller list. She went back and got her MFA relatively late in life, and has done very well with this book. I don't think she's published much before this, and this was her debut novel. What it is about a family called the Plums, who are 4 siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. Their father has passed away before the beginning of the novel, and before he did, he left the family a trust fund to be bequeathed to them when the youngest of them turns 40. It's not a giant sum of money, but it's a significant sum of money. And the book opens when the oldest son, Leo, gets into an accident that causes the funds of the nest, as they refer to it, to be depleted. And the rest of the book is really what will happen with those funds. Are they going to be reimbursed by Leo? Is he going to step up and take responsibility? So what's going to happen to everybody now that the nest has been depleted? So that's the setup for the book. I think the book starts out at really the perfect spot for what the author's trying to do by setting up this car accident that sets the plot in motion. I think that she does a really good job of really quickly, but with really nice detail, explaining how the family fortune came to be, explaining the personalities of the father, who's not in the novel because, again, he's passed away when the novel begins. His wife, who is the mother of the children, is not in the novel all that much. I'll kind of get to that and things I didn't like as much. But that first opening chapter sets up everything pretty nicely, and you know what you're going to get with the Leo character, as well as what you kind of get with the rest of the tone throughout the book, which is a mixture of pretty serious and heavy topics with a small dose of humor. I know there are probably people who found this book to be really, really funny from what I've read, and I didn't think it was really funny all the time. I thought there was parts that were really humorous, but for the most part it was a little bit more of a solemn tone. But I like the opening, and conversely, I think it ends really well. It ends at the perfect spot for the book, and I think she wraps up everything nicely at the end there. So those are the parts that I like the most. I think it is kind of back to tone, a realistic depiction of how a family operates. The family at first is something, they're all in their really early to mid 40s. They've all are at various stages in their career. They've had all various ups and downs. Some of them are married with children, some of them are single. And they're all living in New York City, but they're all very busy with their own lives, and there's something of an estranged family at the start. I thought that was kind of a realistic depiction of how a family is. They're kind of coming together due to a crisis and hadn't been in frequent contact for quite a while at the beginning of the book, and I think she does a good job of showing everybody how they're impacted by this event. I think the ending as well is in some ways very bittersweet. It doesn't end with a completely happy ending, not to give anything away, but there are some characters who don't end as happily as others, which again I thought added to the realism of the book. Those are the things about the book that I liked. Some of the stuff that I didn't like as much. I felt that the mother and father character really weren't in the book as much as I would have thought they would have been. They're not really on the minds of the characters very much. And I thought from the perspective of the father, who kind of leaves the money to the children, I thought he would appear more in flashback and more in the lives of the children and things that he told them and left them. And he's just not at all in the book. And I thought that was a little strange. I think his wife, too, is in a few chapters, and then she's not in certain chapters. And it wasn't quite clear to me how I should feel about that character, if I should really dislike her or if I should feel some sympathy for her. So when she was there, she came off a little bit like Lucille Bluth, I think was the character's name from Arrested Development. So I don't know how I was supposed to see her as just purely comic relief, or if she was a more serious character. If she was supposed to be more serious, I wish she had kind of been in the book a little bit more. I think she gets a lot of flack at the beginning of the book for a choice that she makes, and I don't know if that flack was necessarily deserved, given the givens of the situation. And I think to that point, I would have a less problem with the mother and father not being in the book as much if the book didn't feel so overstuffed with characters. You have the 4 family members. You, in addition to the 4 family members, the Plum children, you have their mother and the father, like I said before, but you also have various hangers-on from each of them, old lovers. You have 2 children, a husband. You have a live-in husband for another character. You have a potential love interest in another character. And these characters all kind of come into the book, and I felt that it took away oxygen in some points from the main characters. There's also something of a shift from one of the main characters to a secondary character, and I didn't feel the secondary character was as interesting. She doesn't really have as much conflict in her as some of the main characters do, the Plum family. And I was a little frustrated by that. I think the book also spends a lot of time setting things up, and I think it spends a little bit more time in the past than it really needs to. And there are times where it's unclear whether or not the author's talking about the past or the present, that I found a little unsettling when I was trying to figure out where I was in the book. So that was kind of annoying. There's also a couple characters who, one character in particular who was a firefighter during 9/11, and we get kind of his backstory. And there's a character who was injured in Iraq or Afghanistan, and we get his backstory. I felt those were there really for emotional pool more than really fully deserving characters who needed to be in this book. I felt they felt kind of tacked on. I think in the end of the book, I think everything does wrap up nicely, but it feels very rushed at the end. And I think in part that's due to her needing to bring all these characters into a kind of neat package. I wish some of these characters weren't in the book, so she had a little bit more time with the Plum characters, the main characters, and less time with maybe the secondary characters, like the 9/11 firefighter and the Iraq veteran, who I wish, it's a personal preference. I kind of didn't need those characters in there because I don't think that they get the full weight of those, the tragedy of those things being kind of put into this novel. They felt a little tacked on. There's also some plot contrivances that probably won't bother most people. There's a couple things here and there where there are characters who are set up as not having many contacts, and they're able to, oh, well, I can help you. I know this person who's a very specialized specialist type of thing. So that irked me a little bit. It was just kind of a plot contrivance at the end. It wasn't a huge detriment to the book, but there were some things there that bothered me. I thought it was overall, I think it's for a certain type of person, but I do think it's a well-written book. I think if you're someone who likes, the 2 things that reminded me the most of were Secession and 6 Feet Under. 6 Feet Under especially, in terms of how each of the characters interact with each other, in terms of how dealing with the loss of a parent. I think 6 Feet Under dealt with that a little bit better in terms of having, a couple seasons to get over the loss of the father figure in that book, in that show. But I do think that the idea is there here as well, in terms of who, once the father figure is gone, who's going to lead. I think Leo is kind of set up as the character who's clearly the most charismatic person, and it's a question of whether or not he's going to step up and bring the rest of the family along with him as the oldest son. And then Secession, similar thing as far as characters fighting over a family fortune. So if you like either one of those, I imagine that you'll like the Nest as well. So that's The Nest. And next time I will be reading Pym by Matt Johnson. Until next time, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, bye.